we shouldn't tolerate. We need to stand in solidarity. We need to stand together. And it's not about individuals, it's about the collective. It's about us all together supporting one another, being allies for one another.
Welcome to Talking Shop, the Communities Inc. podcast. Let's talk about hate crime.
Hello everybody, welcome to our podcast. Today we're joined by Craig Berry from Nottinghamshire Police. So thank you for joining us today. Could you just, to start off, just tell us a little bit about your background and what's led you to where you're at today?
Yeah, of course, absolutely. Good morning. So as I've said, I'm Craig Berry, 28 years service as a police officer. I'm a chief inspector working within contact management in Nottinghamshire Police. I'm the tactical lead for hate crime, so I have responsibility for the hate crime team as well within Nottinghamshire Police. All of my service, all of my service has been in frontline uniform policing. I've worked across the city and the county, inner city to some of the villages north of the county. So I have a pretty broad experience of Nottinghamshire and the Nottinghamshire communities. More recently, I've worked in operational support and a lot of planning around events and operations and public ordering and football matches and so on. I'm currently in charge of the vulnerability hub within contact management, so I've got responsibility for the missing from home team, for mental health for the force, and also, of course, hate crime. So, yeah, that's me. Away from policing, I'm a father of 3 teenagers and I coach a sports team, a teenage sports team, and I see the value of communities. I see the value of, providing the right role models for young people and the benefits, and how that benefits communities in general. So.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about your role then. Sort of what are your priorities? What are you hoping to achieve in that work?
Our force pledge is delivering an outstanding service. So my aim, I work every day to ensure that we as an organisation do that for hate crime and for hate crime victims. The priorities really for hate crime are that we're improving trust and confidence with communities, that communities feel confident to talk to us, to tell us what's happening and to report crime. We aim to improve victim satisfaction. We've got actually very good victim satisfaction. I'm not sure that that's always understood by communities, that hate crime really is. We take it very, very seriously. We work really hard to ensure we give a good service. And when hate crime victims are surveyed after an investigation, in the vast majority of cases, they report that they've had a positive experience of working with Nottinghamshire Police. And one of my priorities as well is to build strategic partnerships properly with the likes of yourselves, with local authorities and across the education sector, NHS and beyond, really, as far as we possibly can, to work together to improve and to reduce hate crime.
Yeah. So are there any trends that you've noticed in relation to the statistics or incidents that you've sort of come across or have been reported to you?
Yeah, so trends and statistics are interesting, aren't they? So I look closely at that on a regular basis to see where the truth is, and that's the difficulty for us sometimes. So the statistics, the trends, what's published in terms of hate crime data would tell us that hate crime probably hasn't changed much in the last 5 years nationally, and Nottinghamshire mirrors the national picture. Right. Is no different really, and that would tell us that actually hate crime is reducing very slightly. It ebbs and flows, but it's reducing very slightly. But the reality is probably that we understand that all crime, particularly hate crime, it probably isn't reported as it should be, and the feedback we take from communities is that it's not reported for various reasons, and that's a challenge for us. So if we listen to our communities and we listen to the feedback we receive, then it would suggest that actually there's more hate crime than we know about. Yeah. And the challenge for us is to build the trust and confidence of people out there to tell us what's happening and to work with our partners who have experience and expertise, and may be trusted more by communities for them to also work with us to tell us what's happening. So we've got a proper understanding so that we can then look to collectively, collaborate and problem solve some of these problems.
Yeah.
So who's affected by hate crime? It's marginalised groups, really, isn't it? So it's people that might be affected because of their race, religion, sexual orientation, their disability, or whether they're transgender. The majority of hate crime relates to race. That's the majority of reported hate crime relates to race, and that's because I think of the visibility issue. There's obviously a lot of intersectionality and a lot of crossover, so it might be that somebody's hate is actually religious based, but they can see the colour of the skin, so they choose to use words that would suggest it's race related, but actually the motivation is religious. So again, it's complicated and can be, but and as you say, it could be the colour of the skin, it could be somebody's dress, it could be their language, or even their accent. All of these things are what might be the trigger for somebody to then behave and to act in a hateful way. So what do we know about the extent of the problem for hate? I think there's a number of angles really on this, but I would say that we know that online hate is a significant issue for the UK, for the whole world, sadly, because the internet's global, isn't it? Digital platforms enable hate speech, and targeted harassment to take place anywhere and to affect people in their own homes. So people often don't feel, it may be the case they don't feel safe in their own homes. And investigating online hate can be really challenging for all sorts of reasons, because of the global reach, because of jurisdictions, because of technology. The answers are certainly don't just lie with policing. They are collaborative efforts from technology companies, from internet providers, from governments, from people with all the right expertise to deal with these complicated issues. So, do we understand the full extent of hate crime? I think that the only way we do that is beyond the internet, is actually by engaging and listening to communities and actually taking on their experiences. So and acknowledging and recognising it. So
I guess it's difficult to look at what those trends are influenced by, because if reports are going up, that might be because people have got more confidence in the police, or that there's been initiatives that have encouraged reporting.
Absolutely.
Or it could be that hate crimes genuinely have gone
and
increased.
That's right. Yeah. So we want to see increased reporting to support our investigations and to support and ensure that our communities feel safe. Obviously, we don't want to see more hate crime victims, but the reality is those victims already exist, don't they? So it's for us to understand and then be able to support and help. So,
but we do know that certain sort of events and activities do lead to spikes in reported hate crimes. After sort of domestic, international sort of extremism or terrorist events. I was actually talking to a colleague of mine a few days ago, and she was saying with the women's football at the moment, and we know that when the female England team played a few years ago, misogyny online just sort of shot through the roof.
Yeah.
And that's been happening again, sort of lots of negative comments about women playing football and all the rest of it. So we do know that there are patterns, don't we, in terms of when there are spikes in reporting.
Yes, yeah. To go back to the misogyny issue is absolutely relevant. Going back to the extremist or terrorist related incidents globally, yes, hate crime spikes often after a terrorist attack, especially when the perpetrators are linked to, and it could be accurate or not, to a specific ethnic, religious or national group. The incidents last summer, the tragic murders of the young schoolgirls in Southport, that prompted a lot of hatred and vitriol online, didn't it?
Yeah.
And a lot of that then very quickly became linked to the perpetrator's religion, which wasn't accurate at all, and then their nationality, which also wasn't accurate. And then a great debate about when the authorities should release the nationality to prevent all of that misinformation and disinformation. So but yeah, there is and we do watch that really closely, because that's about us understanding emerging patterns of community tensions
Yeah.
and conversely the cohesion side of it within communities, which is
Yeah.
important for us. So, and you're right, the misogyny, it takes your breath away to watch some of the things that are said about about women and girls as a result of something like a football competition.
Yeah.
And to see, and that's just about power, isn't it? It's just about power and the imbalance of power, and people feeling, perpetrators feeling threatened by that, which is crazy. So
Yeah. I mean, I've got to say, we always sort of, at Communities Inc., if there's an incident that sort of makes the news, and, we sort of hold our breath a little bit, because we know that, we know that the backlash is coming.
Yeah.
That someone's going to start saying hateful things, and some people are going to start being targeted in some way.
yeah.
I mean, just coming back to the misogyny, I mean, Nottinghamshire Police was the first police force, I think in 2016, to monitor misogyny as a hate crime. What's that been like over the years? I mean, we're sort of, nearly 10 years on. What have you learnt from that? How's that informed the work that you do?
Yeah, so it's definitely revealed important insights into what eventually becomes gender-based violence, doesn't it? So we've learned that misogyny is widespread. It's obviously not unique to Nottinghamshire, but Nottinghamshire are one of the forces that are recording it. There are now a number of other forces that record misogyny, because it also links into our national work around violence against women and girls, because there are stepping stones, I think, in all of these, a kind of escalation or graduated pathway almost that perpetrators go along. So so we did start that back in nearly 10 years ago. These behaviours, misogynistic behaviours, can become just normalised or dismissed if we're not careful, but identifying and recording them helps us to validate women's experiences as much as anything, and raises awareness of the significance and the seriousness of the experience. So we've understood that where in areas of the country, including Nottinghamshire, where we record misogyny, women felt more encouraged to come forward to report what they'd experienced. So previously ignored behaviours such as catcalling that were just kind of normalised and had to be accepted don't have to be now, because we can they can be reported and we can take action, even if that is just as you said earlier, where there's where we go and actually just speak to the perpetrator and we challenge them on that behaviour, because that behaviour isn't acceptable. So we also think that it helps reframe public safety and gender equality, as women and girls have the right to feel safe anywhere, but very often don't, do they? And that's the difficulty. So I think it's also worth recognising that within that misogyny, and there's the intersectionality of what that experience must be like as a woman, but what about when you're a black woman or a disabled woman or a Muslim woman?
Yeah.
You're dealing with a double whammy of hatred there potentially, aren't you? And that just is what makes it more complex and makes them more vulnerable in their day-to-day lives. So
yeah, I mean, in our training, our starting point is people don't just wake up one day and decide they're homophobic, racist, misogynistic. There's, as you say, there's that sort of continuum that they travel on with their behaviour that sort of slowly escalates over a period of time. I mean, I know that hate incidents are also encouraged to be reported. So and what's the importance of that? Because there's been some debate in the media recently around, is that wasting the police's time? Because if they're not crimes, why should the police be paying attention to it?
It's for the same reasons. Misogyny is one of the strands that Nottinghamshire record isn't nationally required. So for all those same reasons, it gives a better picture, a better understanding. And how can you possibly look to improve, to protect, to prevent, to educate when you don't understand? It's evidence based, then, isn't it? And so it's. And for all the reasons that we've said, that victims feel validated if they've got the support of authorities. If it's just normal and accepted, then nothing will change, will it? And they are very isolated and very the power imbalance just remains, the status quo remains as it is. So it's really important that every form of hate crime is recorded, and that we look to work with those victims to be guided by them, but also to take action where we can. So
I think that's a really important part of the prevention as well, because not only will things not change, things could get worse. Those people that are getting away with those, sort of in brackets, lower level type behaviour that can still be very harmful to people, then sort of start feeling a bit more confident, and like you say, it becomes normalised. But if it's stopped in its tracks, as it were, if it's nipped in the bud at those early stages, it might actually prevent criminal offences being motivated by hate happening at a later stage.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, so it is. Why would we wait? Why would we ignore or turn? It's the collective view, and this is something I'm really sort of I feel strongly about, or quite passionate about, is that we shouldn't tolerate. We need to stand in solidarity. We need to stand together. And it's not about individuals, it's about the collective. It's about us all together supporting one another, being allies for one another, standing up and challenging. And that's what changes societal behaviour. It doesn't sit with one person. It doesn't sit with the victims to fight that fight on their own. It's got to come from us all.
Yeah.
And that's how you change behaviour. I don't think it can be done in isolation, and shouldn't be done in isolation.
Yeah. And also I think sometimes we forget that people that say those hateful things, they're not always complete strangers that we bump into. They might even be members of our family, or people that we work with, or some of our colleagues. So, when we talk about sort of the responsibility in addressing it, we all have a role to play, don't we, in terms of being able to catch those behaviours and say that, look, that's not okay, or how would you like it if someone said that to your daughter, or to your grandma.
Yeah, of course.
We've all got a role to play in relation to addressing that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and there is we're not criminalising people unnecessarily. I think there's everything's in context. Every situation, incident are different. There are very valid outcomes and appropriate outcomes, again with the victim's involvement and approval, that quite often victims will say, I just want that person spoken to.
Yeah.
And we're all learning. Life is about learning, isn't it? So it might well be that is the exact right response at that time.
Yeah.
And that person goes away and thinks about what they've said and just reflects on it, and then chooses not to, or maybe reflects on that behaviour going forward, but chooses not to ever act in that way again. That's what we'd hope. We've seen some good examples of that from football matches, because I'm sure you'll know that the behaviour of football fans is sometimes, it's a representation of society. We can't excuse it. However, it's amplified in a football ground. People say things in football grounds that they wouldn't say anywhere else. There's a project that we've been doing work with called Kick It Out, and some of the things that are said in football grounds that wouldn't reach the threshold for prosecution, usually because there isn't the evidence to prosecute. We will get that individual in to take part in this education programme.
Yeah.
And it's remarkably successful, the reoffending rate. So the deal is, you come and take part in this programme, otherwise you don't come into this football ground again.
Yeah.
It's supported by the football clubs entirely. Come and take part, and it might just be the first session is a 2-hour session. You might just need 1 2-hour session. It'll depend. But the person that delivers the training is excellent, and they work closely with us as the police. And success does that person, because we tend to we'll always know who they are, and we know where they sit in the ground. Are there ever any future examples of them behaving, or of that sort of behaviour? And it's been really positive. So sometimes it is appropriate just to put to educate people.
Yeah, and that sort of informal visit can really make a deal. I know when I experienced a hate crime, I reported it, and I was asked, what is it that you would want to happen?
Yeah.
And having sort of worked in this field, I said, well, if you could just visit that person and let them know that it's been reported, because my feeling was, if that person knows it's been reported, it hopefully will make him a bit more mindful about saying anything like that again.
Absolutely.
So that person was visited, and then it was fed back to me that, he was told that this has been reported. If there's any future occurrence, it will stay on the record. And yeah, I think I felt confident, and certainly that officer felt more confident that it's probably going to be unlikely to say something like that again.
I think there's also an interesting point around. So go back to the football example of groups and crowds, and even online, you can use the same context for online, where there's people are anonymous. They're not identifiable necessarily. Yeah. They're in a group of like-minded people, which obviously isn't the case, as a general rule for football fans. I'm not saying that, but they feel validated by the fact that they've got people around them that they think the same way, or they're not identifiable. They've got their hood up, or they've got their face covered, or they're online and they're using they're anonymous online, and that empowers them to say whatever they like and do. And by identifying them and by challenging them in the way that we've just discussed, it strips them bare almost, and they then realise, actually, no, I'm very vulnerable now, and that power balance again starts to level out, doesn't it?
They become visible, don't they?
Yeah, and accountable.
Yeah. So what do we know about hate crime perpetrators? Who are they? Why do they do it? What do we know about them?
Yeah, I mean, it's easiest thing to say is that it's the majority usually against the minority, because it is about that. It is about power. It is about saying that you stay in your place. You're not welcome here. That's how it feels to me. That ultimately the message is, I'm uncomfortable with you because I don't understand you. You don't look like me. You don't act like me. And I'm going to shout and scream or do whatever I do just to kind of keep you in your place. And I think that's it's probably, there are certain groups, as I've already mentioned, that certainly feel the brunt of it, and that, and that could be Muslim people, Jewish people, it could be disabled people, LGBTQ plus often are the victims of hate crime. But it's wrong to say that the hate crime offender is always a white male in his 40s. Very often is, but it doesn't mean that that's always the case by any stretch. An offender, a perpetrator can look like anything, but the victims are usually, the common denominator is the victims are usually in that less powerful position.
Could you just tell us a little bit more about the work that you're doing to encourage reporting? Because obviously, that data is really important to inform the work that you do. What is it that you do to encourage people to report?
Yeah, so we, from my role, I look at where we think there's obvious underreporting, and so our local neighbourhood policing areas will be out there in their communities, talking to their communities, listening. That's really important. Informing, that's really what policing's about at a local level. My job is to look at sometimes where those gaps might be. So across the piece, really, we've just started a campaign with the NHS to encourage reporting for NHS workers. So, our beloved NHS has got a very diverse, hard-working workforce, and yet we know that there's underreporting of hate crime, and yet people go to work and they shouldn't be going to work and accepting that hate crime's the norm. So we work with NHS management, who are actually really now supportive of giving their staff opportunity to report. So that's one campaign that we've just started. I'm really positive about the reaction or the work that we've done with NHS colleagues. So I'd like to see, again, with that very diverse workforce, talking about that, something we've done internally is that we've got we've got a reasonably diverse workforce in policing now. We'd like to make it more diverse, more representative of communities. And again, our officers and staff don't come to work to be abused and to be victims of hate crime. So, and actually, it happens more often than you think. So, I'm certainly not making light of it. We take it very seriously. That shouldn't happen. We, as an employer, have got a responsibility to look after our staff. So, so we do work internally within the organisation, and we try to look at and support, our colleagues in a number of different ways wherever we can. So, they're two of the examples. Yeah. And another one actually is that we've got. Across Nottinghamshire, we've got 12 neighbourhood policing areas, so there are 7 on the county and 5 in the city. And we're organising an engagement event to invite, based on the needs of that local area and their local communities, to invite a particular community to come to an engagement event on all 12 of those areas
Right.
on each month for the next 12 months. So
Right.
once a month on a different area. So we cover the whole of Nottinghamshire, and we've got a Roma event, we've got a Polish event organised for the Polish community in Mansfield, Roma community, I think, in Nottingham. We've got a disability event. We've got a new emerging Hong Kong community in Rushcliffe, who we've not had many opportunities to engage with yet. So Hong Kong immigrant community that we're doing our very best to invite to an event. So hopefully that'll be a success. We're trying to rig something up for our trans community, which I'm finding more difficult than I'd like. We're trying to build that trust and confidence with that community. So again, different communities, different parts of Nottinghamshire for each of the next 12 months.
And, if somebody that's listening has either experienced a hate crime or incident or witnessed one, how can they report it? What are the different ways that they can get in touch?
The first thing I'd say is, and I'm going to say this over and over, please report it. Please make a stand.
Yeah.
We will support you. We will be guided by you. And for all the thing, and I'm repeating myself now, but we will be victim-centred. You will not lose control of what happens. We will keep you regularly updated. You will have a nominated officer who you will build a relationship with, or we would like you to build a relationship with. And you never lose control of that, but it's really important that we are given the opportunity to prove ourselves and to earn your trust and confidence. And I've already talked about the victim support services that are available as well.
Yeah. So some people might be concerned about what's going to happen when they do report it. Could you just talk us through a little bit around, what's the process when somebody has reported it? What are the next steps in terms of what you do?
There's sometimes questions around how do you report, because it's not always obvious. What number do I ring when and so on? But if there's a crime happening there and then and there's a perpetrator at the scene, ring 999 and we'll send officers to that and to support and take over basically and take control of that and protect you. Otherwise, the other reporting mechanism would be 101, telephone 101. Otherwise, you can report via Nottinghamshire Police's website. So you don't need to speak to a person directly in that circumstance. You can. It's almost the new world of remote reporting. Mm-hmm. And from the very outset, we will keep you updated. We will tell you what's happening. We enter into that contract with you. So you know exactly what you're going to get from us, and you get the opportunity to ask us questions as well. Yeah. We are governed by, there are time parameters for our activity and action. So, it's not, it isn't going to, it's going to be reasonably swift. We try to deal with things quite quickly if we possibly can. And if it takes the criminal justice system route through to the CPS and possibly to court, which is absolutely appropriate in a lot of cases, again, we're there to support you throughout, as are the CPS, and again we are governed and led by you, so that's important.
Right. So you sort of make that assessment in relation to what route you're going to take and what's going to happen next, and
it will depend on the gravity of it, won't it?
Yeah.
So it will depend on the evidence. It will, and therefore, you talked about keeping your eyes wide open by making sure that you're seeing what's happening. Who else might have seen what's happened? Are there any CCTV cameras? What other evidence might be available? Who are the other witnesses? They're the things that the police will take into account. Obviously, we'll look at the seriousness of what's happened as well. Has anybody been hurt? Is there a physical assault? Is there, every situation's different, isn't it?
Yeah.
But ultimately, we've got to be led by you, so that's really important.
Great. And just finally, we've got National Hate Crime Awareness Week coming up in October, which is an opportunity to raise awareness around hate crime, raise awareness around the importance of reporting. If people out there sort of want to help to raise that awareness, what sorts of things can they do, or how can people get involved in raising awareness around the importance of reporting, encouraging people to do that. What can people do to help?
Well, that's interesting. So we're just in the early stages of planning a seminar event. We've got a newly established independent advisory group structure within Nottinghamshire Police. So our communities, there are 7. There's a strategic group as well. So I think there are 8 IAGs made up of community representatives. And our plan for that week, on one of the days during that week, only early stages at the moment, is to invite all of those members of those 8 IAGs to come to headquarters to join us for an afternoon where we're going to, it's going to be a very open, honest event, really, where we want people's views, where we want to talk about hate crime, where we want to collectively, it'd be a miracle if we solve it all in one day, but we'll do our best to listen, to try and capture some of those views, so we can almost put together I don't know if we'll call it an action plan, but a record of what's been discussed and how we together can make things better and improve things. So one option might be for people to look up those IAGs and come and get involved.
Right. Okay.
The local neighbourhood policing teams at a local level all around the force will be running engagement events as well. I talked about the 12 months and the 12 different events earlier. But the local teams will be out there as well doing work, and just take an opportunity to come to one of those events and to be involved in your own community. That's a real positive for us. There'll be lots of media, there'll be lots of social media, there'll be other things people can tune into.
So look out for opportunities to get involved. Nearer the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. There is a national website actually for the National Hate Crime Awareness website.
Yeah.
And that gives some of the resources available as well. So
great. Well, that's great. Thank you very much, Craig, for coming in, and it's been very interesting. And I think one of the main takeaways is, if you do witness anything, if you do experience something, please report it. Yes. It might not lead to a criminal justice outcome, but that data will be invaluable to informing what Nottinghamshire Police do.
Yes.
So it makes a difference, doesn't it, all that data?
Yeah.
So thank you very much. And thank you very much for your time, Craig.
Thank you.